Welcome to Still Wednesday. Today we're still discussing apps to edit photos on our phones, and today's app is called Snapseed. This is the app. You can see it in the Play Store or in the App Store. This is normally how I select my photos. I add them to favorite and then I send them to edit. We can go and edit a portrait. This one over here could do it. I share the photo straight into the app. Now the difference between Lightroom and Snapseed, amongst various settings, is the fact that you cannot import more than one photo at a time, as opposed to Lightroom, which holds all the photos in a catalog. So you can just do one app at a time. And although there's some settings to help you, Snapseed also doesn't have a memory where you can store certain settings as well. So let me just introduce you quickly to the interface. The styles on the bottom left has some preset filters to it that you can use. These are really quick ones, but I never use them. And then you go to tools and you have all sorts of a lot of tools. Now what I love about this is that Snapseed has some features for free that otherwise you would need to pay for in Lightroom. The entire app itself works on the finger or thumb movement of swiping up, down, left or right. So as you see, I've opened the Tune Image menu, and for me to activate it, I just need to swipe up and down to see what I would like to adjust. The Tune Image side mostly has the light and a bit of the color saturation of the image. And then you go, let's go brightness, then you go left and right to activate it, and the menu at the top tells you the value. And obviously the top right corner you can undo the effect and see the original at all times, or it has an automatic feature. Now I'd like to undo this effect, and let's go through the other menus. Now you've got details, which is in the sharpness of the image. You have the curves as well, which I really like, and it also has the color curves as well, the RGB ones. Lightroom does, but they are arranged differently. You've got the white balance, you've got the crop, the rotation. One aspect that I particularly love about it, and one of the features that's different or paid for in Lightroom, is the perspective. Now this means that you can adjust the image, correct lines, but individually, as opposed to rotating the entire image. So rotating the entire image would be in here, in the rotate menu. But if you'd like to make certain adjustments, and this works really well for, let me open another image. First, I'm going to rotate it to make sure that the line is straight, and it did the auto rotation, which works for me. I'm happy with that. And then I would go into perspective, because I'd like to have those lines sort of in the corner. So if the image is taken too far down, looking up, you can tilt it up or down to level it. Or if the image needs to be somehow straightened, I can just select the corners and move them wherever I want to have them, whilst keeping the other settings somehow unaffected. See, so this is like a before and after, and then you can carry on adjusting it as you please. Now this can be easily avoided, obviously, if you take a photo straight on, as opposed to having the camera tilted and just placing yourself in the center of a room or an architecture piece. Another cool setting that Snapseed has is expansion. Now I don't really use it, but I think it's really cool. That if you want to make your frame a little bit wider, obviously not having anything important placed around the corners, like no faces or anything like that, and it's going to duplicate. It's going to multiply. See, it works really well kind of on the left. But when you have really harsh lines, really defined pieces, it's a bit harder. I think this one works better a bit with nature or with a more repetitive pattern. Another feature that you need to pay for in Lightroom is selective, and I think this one's really important because apps that are very specific and particular give us a lot of freedom. So most of the times when we want to edit an image, we are fussed about the little details, a color that doesn't look good here, a random object that we would like to remove, and things that are very particular that overall filter wouldn't be able to solve. So selective zooms in and lets you place, let's say I want to make my dress a bit brighter in this photo. So it picks this point, and if you put both of your thumbs on the image, it shows you with intense red what it's selected. Now, because this image has quite a bit of white in it, it's not a very specific color. But let's say, again, you scroll up and down, left and right. So B stands for brightness, then contrast, saturation, and structure. I want to add a bit more light, so I go left and right. And it brightens that area. This effect works really well if you want to remove a specific color from the image. So we go selective, we select the blue, it shows, see, now it's a more defined selection, and I'm going to scroll down to saturation and take it down. And this is beautiful because, as you can see, my skin is unaffected. Let's select this blue as well. Take the saturation down, make the brightness up a bit if we want to, and it just works on defined areas, which is really cool. You have the brush tool as well, which allows you to do the following settings: dodge and burn, expose, temperature, and saturation over the image. And the cool part of it is that it also has an eraser. So for example, I would want to increase the exposure by a little bit on my face, not too much. And now let's do a lot over here. See, I've done a more harsh example so you can see what I'm doing. But because I don't want to do that much, I can go on the eraser and it will help me control where the effect is applied. Another tool is the healing one. This is one that's, you know, when you have a bad skin day and you'd like to remove a spot, a pimple or anything like that. I'm gonna go for my sign over here on the neck. And the closer you get, it shows you the size of the brush. So I want my brush about that size. Use it with both fingers, and then you just tap on it and it removes it. It's not the most accurate feature because sometimes if it picks up a certain texture, it's going to repeat it. Ooh, wait, I've just brushed my face over there. So use it in very small amounts. The smallest brush you can use, the better. HDR Escape, this is more of a landscape. I rarely use it on landscapes. And then you have in Glamour Glow, in Drama, in Vintage, in all these like following effects. You've got tons of effects that you can use. The ones that I was using the most were the grainy film. The only thing about it is that once you've applied this effect, you've got the list of effects over here, it doesn't have many settings that you can adjust as opposed to the Lightroom presets, which shows you all the settings to what they're set, and you can take them down or up or remove them completely. This one just allows you to change the grain and the style strength of the image. I'm not gonna lie, with the rest of the settings still being active, I've also enjoyed this feature. I've used Snapseed and I'm still using it. I think it's the app I've been using the most and for the longest, and it's a main one alongside Lightroom. And then obviously you've got the various settings. I kind of stay away from the really dramatic ones. I tend to use the black and white quite a bit, or the noir one. And then you have some options for portraits, but please be very subtle with them. You've got various combinations over here, so it can either be like a spotlight, which kind of vignettes everything around it and puts your face in a spotlight. And then you have combination that smoothens your skin and enhances your eyes, or it has a combination of the both. My skin is quite smooth in this face, so I'm not too fussed about this effect, so I'm going to bring it all the way down. I don't mind the face spotlight. I can leave it for a little bit, but not too much. And then the eye clarity is the one that can really make a photo look really fake. So see if I bring it all the way up. I tend to see this effect online more than I would like to, and it's just too much. I think your eyes stand out enough, and if the photo is pixelated or it's unclear, then it's unrealistic for you to apply a really harsh eye filter. And on top of everything, cameras on the phones have these options in the camera itself. So if you do apply a lot of filters when you take the photo, if you take it on your phone and then you apply it over here as well, it's gonna be a bit much. and people are not gonna recognize you when they see you in real life. Then you've got the head pose, which I've never used, but I think it's interesting because it allows you to move the face up, down, left and right. See how I think you need to be very mindful of how you use it. The selection of the face is quite wide, and whenever it moves it, it's quite a bit of a drastic movement. There's nothing too natural about it, unlike Photoshop that allows you to adjust the eyes separately, the nose separately, each eye individually and all of that. This kind of just takes a chunk of your face and you just move it around. So I think this is for the very, very delicate movements. Oh, there you go. You can do the pupil size in here as well. And then smile. This is the creepiest setting ever when you adjust the smile and the focal length. See, so this head pose situation's going places. Now I would like to undo everything. And one of the coolest settings that this app has, when you go at the top, you can choose on the little arrow button, you have view edits. So if let's say I apply another effect now that I want to keep, let's say black and white, but I really hate what I've done with my face. So I'm gonna go to view edits, and this is the list of the edits you've made. And now this is a bit like the Photoshop layers, where you can go and undo an edit you dislike whilst keeping the others. So I'm gonna go on head pose. It poses the last effect as well, or everything that's on top of it. So I'm gonna go to it. You can adjust it if you're unhappy with it, or mask it out, but the mask doesn't work. The middle feature doesn't work in this. Or you can delete it. I wanna delete it completely, and then I wanna keep the noir. Or you can just go back to the original. But I think it's really cool that you can select an edit you've done halfway through and keep the others. You've got the lens blur, which is okay. I think any sort of artificial blur that's added in the edit is somehow obvious. So, but it's nice that this allows you to change the shape of the area you would like to blur out. So I want to keep my head in focus. And then you also have this transition. You know, it doesn't just blur out everything close to the immediate point you select. It allows you to add a bit of vignette around it and adjust the blur strength and how smooth the transition you'd like the transition to be. Then obviously you've got the vignette and you've got the double exposure again, which is a really cool effect. Then you can add text or frames. So you've got loads of options and it's completely up to you what you'd like to use, but I do think that the healing is a really good tool to have when you want to remove an object or an item or a detail that you don't want there. The selective is fantastic, the brush. I think the grainy film, and I think there's some really decent filters over here that you can adjust. Then also at the top right, you have settings, tutorial, help and feedback, which is good. This is the information of the image I'm editing and the photo was taken on a Huawei phone. Or in here, the save button is the done at the top left. Now, let me check if I remember correctly. Once you're happy with the effects that you've made and you've applied, I'm just doing this randomly, you can go at the top, you can go in view edits, and this shows you the list of everything that you've liked, and you can copy all of them. Open another image. I can go to view edits and insert. Even though I've closed the program, it allows me to copy paste images. So if you edit two images one after the other, you can copy the settings in the previous ones and paste them in the second one. However, I think that for a workflow point of view, Lightroom is much more friendlier when it comes to doing images one after the other. Snapseed is also very detail orientated and it gives you a lot of tools that you can control in your advantage. These were the two apps that I mainly wanted to introduce you to, Lightroom and Snapseed. In the next episode, we're going to discuss Lightroom presets, some of my favorite presets, where you can find them, how you can use them, and the magic they sort of do. This would be a fantastic moment for you to subscribe, and thank you for watching today's episode. Have a fabulous Wednesday.